Hi, and welcome to today's episode. I'm your host, Liz Fisher, and today we're going to talk about how cancer survivors can benefit from tapping. And I'd love to introduce to you a guest that I had back on season 2, episode 25, which was how to use EFT tapping to overcome sexual trauma, Tiffany Yelverton. Tiffany is the founder and CEO of Entice Me Soirees Inc. and the creator of Sexy Survivors. Tiffany utilizes EFT to disarm sexual and body shame so that her clients experience satisfying and fulfilling pleasure. As a master coach, she facilitates educational courses, workshops, retreats, and coaching experiences. She is dedicated to inspiring survivors to love themselves and revive pleasure after cancer treatment through her revolutionary platform, Sexy Survivors. Hi, Tiffany. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for having me back.
I'm so excited to get to talk a little bit about your this new Sexy Survivors program that's taking off, and we're definitely going to get to that. But first, I want to just let our listeners know, if they haven't already, because this is technically we're talking about something a little different than we were talking about when we were um, on our interview last season, that I want to know how you feel that cancer survivors can benefit from tapping.
So tapping really releases those traumas that are inside our body. And when you go through cancer treatment, that's an invasive treatment, whether it's radiation, chemo, a lumpectomy, a full mastectomy, a full surgery to remove your ovaries or your uterus, your cervix. Those are all very invasive surgeries that do trauma to the body. And not just physical trauma, but the mental trauma that goes along with it of removing parts of us that society really equates to femininity.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to talk about the other side of cancer treatment because people don't talk about it's like, oh, well, I'm cancer free. Okay, great. Move on. No, there is so much that is not even discussed about the effects of afterwards. Even if you don't lose a internal part or an external part, or your life has changed. You
Yes.
may be suffering with besides the emotional and mental stress of it all, just physical health problems that you will have for the rest of your life that a lot of people keep hidden. And so it's like by the time they give you your packet of, hey, you're cancer free, it doesn't include how do I manage my emotions after the fact that I just went through this horrific trauma. It's kind of like, well, we got you better. Now you're on your own. And that's kind of, it's horrifying to think that my brother-in-law is just going through his second round of battle with cancer. He had cancer in his 20s and now he's in his mid 40s. And it's I can't even imagine what he's going through and the struggle that, just to push through every day, to even if you're not feeling well, put on that face like, I'm feeling good. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to do the things that I normally do, even
I'm
though I
beating
don't.
cancer. I'm doing it. All
Yes.
that, just
Yeah.
the raw part of that well, it is a mental game too, that you need to have a strong mental, good mind story so that you are, battling it mentally. And we all know the mind controls so much of our health as well. Um, but like your brother-in-law, they're so like once you have cancer, there's such a higher risk of it coming back that I think that's always in the back of of survivors' minds that,
Hmm.
oh, when's my next scan? Is it going to be okay? That whole anxiety that goes along with that.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then there's the people that are taking medication for the rest of their lives that are either inhibitors that are taking, all their hormones away, that are blocking those hormones, or if they're on chemo pills for the rest of their life, things like that, injections. There's so much that goes along with it. And unfortunately, the doctors just kind of say, well, we saved your life. You should be happy that you're alive.
Yes. Yeah, I think that that's mostly what the focus is of the general public is, and when you're diagnosed, it's like, how can I help? How can I get over this? What are all the things I could do? I could change my diet. I can, do this energy work. I could do whatever, but then it's you're kind of left on your to be with your own devices, or you're left on your with your own devices after the fact, and there really is no way to get through that. Probably one of the toughest parts of, hey, I'm this changed person now, and how do I go about being, how do I can I go back to being that person that I was before all of this happened? And it's when early on, this past spring, when my brother-in-law first started some treatments, he was in the hospital for his chemo, and he happened to text me a flyer that he found on the table there at the treatment center. And we're in Ohio here, and he's out there. My sister and brother-in-law are in Columbus, so he was at the James Cancer Center in Columbus. And I know you're where were you? You're from Ohio, or you went?
I went to Ohio State.
Yes, you went to Ohio State. Okay.
And so, and I just was at a conference in the spring that was at the James, and
Oh, how funny.
they're just so cutting edge.
Yeah,
It's a sexuality for cancer survivors conference, and
that's
it was
awesome.
there at Ohio State. It
And it
was
was at Ohio
really
State
fun
at
to
the
go
James.
back.
So yeah, he sent me this flyer, and on there it talked about, doing energy work, what you can do during your treatments to do some energy work, which was, there was Reiki on there. There was a couple other things, but he said to me, why don't you reach out to a couple places around Cleveland and see, if you can get tapping in there? And I did. And there's a place called the Gathering Place here in Cleveland that I've reached out to a couple times. They're just really busy. And they offer Reiki. And he had lived in Cleveland the first time that he had cancer, and did a lot at the Gathering Place. It was a place where you could go if you had cancer, where you could get support if you were a family, or loved one, family member, or loved one from with who knew someone that was going through, and they could support you. But he said they didn't have tapping; they had Reiki, and they had other energy modalities, and I don't even know what they were. But it's uh, interesting to me that they don't have more tapping, and that it's not involved in like a rehab program, basically, for when you leave in any capacity. It doesn't even have to be cancer. It could be for anything, for pain management, whatever. So on that note, I'm wondering, because you are so familiar with talking about sex and women's bodies in general, why do you think people are shy away from talking about it, and that it's such an uncomfortable topic? Especially, I mean, I feel like it's even more uncomfortable after you've had a major surgery where your body doesn't look the same. Why are people so uncomfortable about it, do you think?
Well, it's our puritanical society that it shames sex and shames women's bodies. We see that on social media, in the media, on TV, that women are just objectified, and that we don't want to talk about what's really at the base of some concerns and issues when it comes to either sexual dysfunction or when it comes to pleasure. And so, there's such a disparity in male pleasure and male sexuality. We see ads for Cialis and Viagra for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't even know that there's a female Viagra, the Addie pill, the flibanserin, that's been on the market for 3 or 4 years. And nobody even knows about it
Oh, I have
because,
never heard of that.
yeah, there's no, the ad, I finally saw an ad like this last year, but that was like, no one knows about it.
So they don't feel like, so society feels like women don't have, or it's not as important if women
It's
have
not as
sexual,
important.
yeah, right. If they have sexual dysfunction, that's not nearly as important, because like a male libido is a big deal. Like if a male loses their libido, it's like, oh, they've lost their whole soul or
Right,
something.
their
And it,
masculinity and
which it's the
everything.
same for a
It's
woman.
the
I mean, it's
same.
exactly the same, because I'm like going through perimenopause, and another subject no one wants to talk about, but it's like there it comes in waves. It's like, well, don't touch me, or I mean, but that's not how you don't want to feel like that, and you question, why am I feeling like this, and is there something wrong with me? And then when you come out of a cancer treatment like that, and you literally have layers of trauma, like how do you even rebound? Isn't that like the last thing that you want to even be talking about? I mean, but it's part of real life. So if you can get back to the most normal life that you had before the treatment, that is part of it. Your sexuality, your libido, your wanting to be intimate with someone, that's just part of life, that's fulfilling.
Well, and you think that it would be the last thing on their mind. I think that's the common thought pattern. But actually, one of the reasons that I started Sexy Survivors is because I met a woman, Amy Reagan Strife, who was a stage 4 cancer survivor who ran a lot of survivorship groups.
Mhm.
And she told me that after money concerns, that sex is the top thing that women want to get back to normalcy and to make them feel attractive and vibrant and to get their mojo back, and that no one talks about it. And
Yeah.
I've worked with patients that their doctors have said, "Oh, it's just a breast. You should just get over it." And it's like and this young mom told me, she's like, that was devastating to me because I want that. I crave intimacy. I crave my partner being interested in me and not treating me like a China doll. And really, sex is something that's important to me. It gives me vibrancy. It gives me hope. It gives me, all those feel good chemicals that come along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if a woman was already uncomfortable with her body before she had cancer, okay, how would you go about recovering from basically two layers of body shame with clients using this program? Could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So with tapping and just basically, um, we create a script for the survivors that really taps into
Uh-huh.
their where that shame came from and where they're feeling it in their body, and how how long it's been there. When was the first memory that you didn't like your body? Things like that. Where did that shame come from? And we really then create the scripts so that they can continue to work on getting the positive reinforcement that they want and how they want to feel about their body, how they
Mm-hmm.
want to feel about themselves. And we do a general group one because most cancer survivors kind of have the same feelings. And then I teach them how to write their own scripts, and we do a private session where we write their own scripts so that they
Mm-hmm.
can really um, customize it and have resources.
So if someone came to you, tell us how this would work, the Sexy Survivors program.
Sure.
So say you get discharged from the hospital and you're cancer free at that moment. What happens?
So most hospitals and treatment centers have survivorship programs where you come and you can do therapy, you can do group sessions, there's workshops and things like that. And so our goal with Sexy Survivors is to bring our platform, which is a digital 7-week program, into the treatment site so that that's part of the survivorship program, that the hospital gives us the names of their survivors, then we enroll them in our process and onboard them into our program and really hold their hand through the whole process, because the medical community is already stretched thin. They already are understaffed, and sexuality is something that most people don't want to talk about. They don't have any education in it. And so we take that off their plate. I think most hospitals or treatment sites would be like, oh, that's just too big of an on taking. So we've
Mm-hmm.
put the whole thing together. It's standalone so that we'll take care of the survivors and really nurture them through our program. If
And
somebody just came to us on their own, we have a digital program that we're still doing case studies, so we can enroll them in a case study, and then we're going to have a membership platform that will be just digitally delivered beginning around the beginning of the year.
okay, so that's all wonderful. And when we talked a little offline, this, if you went through your goal, if you went through the hospital system, would be to have it covered
Yes.
and that you wouldn't have to pay. Is that correct?
That's correct. The hospitals have access to big donors. They have access to those foundations that have all the foundations that everyone gives their money to. They have access to their funds, but small businesses usually don't. And what I've been working with cancer survivors for about 10, 12 years now. And what I found is they really want the programming, they really want the support, but they're already have spent all their money on their cancer treatment, and they are maybe even on the brink of bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't have those extra funds to really invest in private coaching,
Mm-hmm.
which I charge a premium because of what I do,
Yeah.
and it's specialized.
Yep.
And I want to be able to offer this on a bigger realm so that it's not just one to one to one, but it's one to many so that we can reach all the survivors out there. Because over 450,000 women every year are diagnosed with breast and genital cancers
Oh
in the
my
US,
gosh.
just in the US.
That's an insane amount to even think
And
about.
there's, I think, three or four, maybe five at the most, hospitals in the country that offer any kind of sexual wellness program after.
Ugh, oh, that just breaks my heart. Well,
And so we're standalone, so we aren't tied to an institution or a facility.
right.
We could go into any treatment center, any survivor site, any gathering place, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and provide this if they have the funding.
Mm-hmm. So what is your goal? Is it to be able to be in all hospitals, to be able to be in a specific, and I know you're in California, so you're in LA, and I mean, it's a far reach from LA all the way here to Cleveland. It's like, how are you planning on getting that out there?
Well, we're currently in a crowdfunding campaign to raise funds so that we can get our marketing and all our legal processes in place so that we can go into those centers in other states. Because we're a digital program, which is online, then that means that we're not tied to any location. We can deliver it anywhere in the world, like here on Zoom.
Right.
But it's a secure medical platform, so it's um, more secure than Zoom that
So how do people go to donate to that?
they can go to my site, just sexysurvivors.org. There's a link there, or it's bit.ly/. Sexy Survivors, and the first two S's are capitalized, IFW, all capitalized. So it's Sexy Survivors, I Fund Women is where we're doing our campaign.
Awesome. And all of that is going to be in the show notes at the end of the show if you'd like to donate. And I want to ask, can you share some of your favorite success stories with your cancer surviving women?
Yes. Um, so one of my favorite stories is Ingrid. She's in our video on the crowdfunding, so please watch it. She's stunning, first of all, and she was so depressed and didn't want to be, didn't know she had anal cancer, which she's very open about, and the shame that comes with that and the the misknowledge about anal cancer. She didn't get it from having anal sex,
Right.
but radiation fuses because it's such a delicate area and so close to the vaginal canal, the radiation can fuse the vaginal canal, and so
Oh,
any kind of penetration is painful. And so she didn't know what to do with dating, how to get back to feeling sexy and feeling like herself. that she was so depressed. There's also, along with her, what she was is some survivor guilt, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times women go through these treatments and there's other women around during the treatment process, and then not everyone survives.
Mm-hmm.
And so surviving can also bring up additional concern, those
Mm-hmm.
additional strifes that
Mm-hmm.
really um, are underlying that no one thinks about.
Yeah. So was she the blonde in the video?
Yes,
Okay, she's gorgeous. And I think that if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Farrah Fawcett had anal cancer.
I think
And
so.
yeah, and that's what she died of. And imagine she was a movie star with, I mean, how do you, I remember her reading something about how she hid it for a really, really long time because of the shame that was involved in it. And I mean, yeah, you don't get any cancer from any type of, I mean, you can from sexual contact, you can get HPV can turn into to cancer, cervical cancer, and so forth. But that obviously anal cancer is not from any type of sex related thing, but how how horrifying to think that you have to go through all of this and then to come out the other side and think, well, now how do I explain that to someone that I want to go out with, or how do I even get back into the dating field? Or I mean, the apprehension to even go, I mean, most people are probably like, I'm done. That's it. I'm good. I don't want to get out there. But you can tell from this video that you guys have to watch on YouTube. I'll put the link in the show notes at the end. She is such a vibrant person. Like she could not be, no matter what kind of cancer, you just couldn't. She needed that. You could tell she's just this vibrant person. And so in the end, how did you tap with her? She went through your whole program and healed, or like where is she now at this point?
So worked she worked with me years ago privately. And then when we did our case study, she also participated in that, just so that I had, she could go through the whole thing. And so, yes, we tapped throughout all of it. We created those scripts. We talked about how, I give very specific exercises or play work every week that they have. And it's about discovering themselves as a woman first. We don't just say, oh, go have sex, or go use these dilators. It's
Yeah.
about who you are as a woman, developing your connection with your body. So I use a lot of sensate touch and sensate focus, meditation. It's that whole mind body vulva experience, or biopsychosocial, as the medical community likes to call it. So it encompasses everything. It's not just one thing or another. We're very broad strokes on mindfulness and touch and exploring the senses,
Hmm.
because also they usually are kind of alone. She didn't have a partner during treatment. And even the women who do have partners, a lot of times they're abandoned during their treatment, and their husbands or partners don't want to touch them. They don't, men tend to, not all men, but a lot of men, don't want to deal with anything that's difficult or
Yep. Yeah,
emotional. And
yeah.
so, women are twice as likely to be divorced during treatment than men, which is awful. But Ingrid just, she hadn't been touched for a long time, and that she hadn't looked in the mirror. She hadn't explored herself. And so just we start with very easy easy for to do, but not easy mentally,
Hmm.
to just start touching yourself. And we start with a face exercise, and we just, close your eyes and just touch your face. And what do you feel? What's the temperature, texture? You know, how does, oh, I have a mole there, or I have a little, you know, peach fuzz here, and just
Uh-huh.
really work on getting back in touch with your body,
Hmm.
and then thanking it for still being here for you, and thanking it for the things that it does do for you.
Yeah,
We do
even
a
if it
mirror
doesn't feel the same,
exercise
even if it
that,
doesn't feel the same as it did before, but I love the sensoriness of it. It's very, I don't know, I'm a very hands-on tactile person, and I think that there is something to be said for putting your hands on yourself and actually um, the way your brain reacts to being able to say, you know what, I don't feel exactly the same here, but I'm working on it and I can tap about it and I can I can get to like this new version of myself just as much as I like the old version, even, you know, even if it's hard to start. But I love the idea of putting, you know, the sensory experience and being able to mold those two things together because I think it's really, really important.
and then we create, like if you don't want to look at it or you're afraid what people are going to judge, there's ways to just, even in sex, to camouflage or to use things that you might not have thought of. One of my favorite stories is I worked with a lady years ago. She was one of my first clients with cancer, and she had an ostomy bag, and she hadn't had sex for 2 years, and she had had brain cancer, but it led to complications. So it's not just one type of cancer, another, but she was like, I cannot be naked like this and have this hanging out. It's just not sexy. It's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And so all we did is we draped a scarf and tied it around her waist, put the bag underneath this beautiful silk scarf, and we did some tapping, we did an exercise, and she called me the next day and said, I just had sex for the first time in 2 years. And it was just those little things that you don't always think of yourself.
That's awesome. I'm like have goosebumps just hearing that because so you I mean you're with these women and can like how did she come to you personally? Like was she in your personal office for that?
Um, yes.
Yeah, so you got to like actually help her fix this scarf on her and feel comfortable in it and all of that. Oh my gosh, I think that that's just amazing. I mean, to be with another strong woman who is uh, giving you guidance and support to and that she could call you afterwards and say, "This is what happened and I'm so excited." And you know, I mean, what a huge accomplishment and how good that must make you feel that you were able
Yeah,
to
I
get that
still
back for
remember. And
her.
she was 70 at the time.
Are
So she
you
wasn't as,
serious?
yeah, she
Oh,
was
I
like,
love it.
again, like that really vibrant, funky, like just you could see that she needed that so much in her life that it was just so, it just still gives me goosebumps to this
Yeah, I
day.
still have goosebumps. It's an amazing story. So, I'd like you to tell our listeners again before we wrap up how they can find you and if they want to work with you, give us all your information. And again, repeat your donation website so that people can go there.
Okay. You can always just go to sexysurvivors.org, and my email's Tiffany at sexysurvivors.com. I'm sorry, sexysurvivors.org, or Tiffany at enticeme.com. And the site, the easiest way is it's bit.ly/sexy survivors. The S in sexy is capitalized, and the first S in survivors is capitalized IFW. So sexy survivors IFW. It's a bit.ly link, so it's shortened from the
Yes.
crowdfunding.
So I am so glad that we could reconnect here today and that you could tell us about this program that is just so important and how it involves tapping and how it involves empowering women and how it involves survivors. It's all just too good to be true. And I hope that you will at least take the time to go to Tiffany's website, even if you don't donate, forward it to someone that could use this. It's just to get the word out is the best thing to do at this point. And the more people that know, the more people that can benefit from it. So I'm so glad that you could be here today again and take some time with us and my listeners to share your awesome journey.
Thank you so much. And every dollar does matter. So there's lots of really cool, sexy rewards for the crowdfunding, but there's also
Oh,
just a monetary donation. So you can give $1, $5. You don't have to donate $10 or $25. Every dollar does help us get this to more survivors. And so please donate and share it, because the more people that know about it, that know that it's a problem for survivors, it really helps the whole cause.
yes. And yeah, every little bit matters. And hopefully we can check back in maybe even next season and see how things are going. I'd love that.
I'd love that too.
Thank you again so much. And just a reminder, if you'd like to work with me, you can schedule a free discovery call on my website. And if you email me, I will send you a free tapping script that you can use just for checking me out. If you're ready to start right now, you can visit my online store and download pre-recorded mini sessions. Thank you so much for listening today. We'll see you next time. And until then, keep tapping.